Welcome all to the one of the last session, concluding session of the Ṛgvedic geography. So we'll start with prayer. So welcome back to the next session. Over to you.
So we have gone through almost more than half of a year. From March, we have been in this journey. We have seen most of all the rivers that are mentioned in the Rig Veda exclusively, not leaving a single river, and also the hydronyms. Hydronyms means the river names, because initially we get to know the river names in the Rig Veda, and then some of the river names may be referring to the same river. So hydronyms or the river names will be more compared to the total number of actual rivers like that. So we have seen all the river names, and also all the different unique rivers, around 32 rivers that we have seen in total. Out of which, of course, there is a very important sukta, that is the 10th Mandala Nadi Sukta, which is providing you a total of 21 rivers actually. So that is how the river data is spread across in the Rig Veda. And of course, some of the other important factors, the most mentioned river is Saraswati, and of course that also means the Saraswati is the origin of the Ṛgvedic civilization, and also because of which Saraswati is also the goddess of knowledge, because Rig Veda, and among all the Vedas, even Rig Veda is the oldest and the primary Veda. And many of we knowing that the other Vedas are basically re-rendering of many suktas in the Rig Veda, like Yajurveda have around 90% of the Rig Veda itself re-rendered, with 10% suktas which are original to Yajurveda. Samaveda means its percentage is even more, like around 98% of the Samavedic suktas are Rigvedic suktas, and maybe 1% of it is original. And of course, Atharva Veda have more original suktas which are not found in Rig Veda, but still many suktas in the Rig Veda are re-rendered in Atharva Veda. So that is all about the four Vedas. So Rig Veda is kind of a primary, the foundation of all the Vedas. And later on, the rishis have considered the same Rigvedic corpus in differently for doing yajna. So yajus, that is why Yajurveda has come, and for reciting the suktas in a melodious musical tone, that is how the Samaveda emerged. And of course, Atharva Veda basically focus on the personal aspects, that is medicines. It mentioned about medicines, potions, and then incantations, and of course some of the interesting cultural aspect of attracting men or attracting women. So that kind of cultural kind of suktas also found in the Atharva Veda. So this is also like kind of an understanding about the entire Vedic corpus. And so the entire this Vedic Samhita, this is all I'm talking about the Samhita part of the Vedas. So Rig Veda Samhita, Yajurveda Samhita, Yasama Veda Samhita, and Atharva Veda Samhita. So the four Samhitas are like the relationship between the Samhitas are like that. And as we the Rigvedic knowledge, as we now means understand it, it has got four divisions. Like Samhita is one, like I mentioned about the four Samhitas, and it's Brahmanas are there, Aranyakas are there, and the Upanishads. So there is that kind of a division as well. So the Brahmanas are actually containing ritualistic explanation, focused with the Samhitas are the foundation, whereas Aranyakas, which is more philosophical in nature, And as the name indicates, Aranyakas are actually authored by the rishis who are completely living in the forest, like after their Vanaprastha period. They're completely detached from the city life and then they are in the forest. So that's why the Aranyaka, the name itself, and it is more philosophical in nature. And Upanishads are a distilled version of the Aranyakas. So little more thought processing has happened onto the Aranyakas, and very distilled kind of knowledge. So Vedic knowledge first got distilled into Brahmanas, then into Aranyakas, and then finally into Upanishads. So which is like a milk churning, and then you get curd, and then again you churn it, you get butter, and then you refine it and you get ghee. So that is the fourfold the Vedic Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. So that is how it is being structured. And of course, Vedavyasa has done a great thing in the Mahabharata. Vedavyasa rendered a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna as Bhagavad Gita, where if you anybody familiar with Bhagavad Gita can understand some of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita are also the original verses you can see in the Upanishads. So it is an Upanishad Sara that is there in the Bhagavad Gita. So that is how it's all structured. So as far as Rigveda, rivers of Rigveda or Rigvedic geography is concerned, everything originated. The original most ancient source was Saraswati. So that Saraswati is mentioned around 85 times, largest number of times into the Rigveda. So that is what we have concluded in our previous session, the summary of the river identities and the focused list of rivers. So just I will, for recollecting the memory, I will just reshare it from my into the screen, and then we can proceed further to this session. We have seen there are around 41 hydronyms. I think hope you are seeing the screen. So 41 hydronyms we are seeing here, and that we have discussed in the last session as a summary of our the river data that we have. So starting with Saraswati, the most repeated mentioned river, then we have seen the rivers in the Haryana like Harupya, Vyavadi, then Ganga, Drishadvadi, Apaya, Sidudri, Vipash, Jannavi, Yamuna, Parushni, Asikni, then Vipali, Sarayu, Sindhu, Vanitapa, and Vipakrumu, Mehatnu, Gomati, then Arjiki and Sushoma, which are like flowing through the Soma growing regions to the slightly to the west of Kashmir Valley. Then Suvastu, Gauri, Shvetayavari, like that you have seen rivers which are like northern tributaries. Shvetayavari is the northern tributary of Sindhu, and Gauri, Suvastu, the Swat River, and the Panchkora River into the western Pakistan. Amshumati is another name of Yamuna, named after an ancestor of Sri Rama, Amshuman. So Ashmanvadi is a pure play, pure Afghan river, currently known as Punar, and then Shvetya, Rasa, that is another name of Sindhu river. Vitasta, we have seen Marudritha, just like Saraswati, a river that has disappeared now, dried up river. And then Sama, Shushartu, Urnavati, Silamavati, and Urjayan. These are the Ladakh region rivers we have seen. Then Urjayanti, that is another name of Saraswati, and then Sarapas, the name of the Gagar tributary, Shifa, the Delhi river, Sahibi, then Anjasi and Tulsi, that is Yavyavadi and Rashadvadi, and Veerapatni, another name of Saraswati. So total 41 hydronyms we have seen in the last session, and this is the list of the consolidated unique rivers by excluding the multiple names of the same river. So you have Apaya as the older channel of Saraswati flowing in the Haryana. So the oldest places mentioned in the Rigveda like Manusha and Ilaspada, named after Manu and his daughter Ila, they are all located in Apaya. So this is the most ancient river. Then Saraswati, of course, then Harivapa, Yavyavati, like that. If you look at the total river number of rivers is 32. So we have 41 hydronyms, that is river names, and 32 unique rivers in the Rigveda. And then we have also seen that Samudra is an important aspect, and Samudra is mentioned double times more than the total number of times Saraswati is mentioned. More than double that time Samudra is mentioned, and we have seen the significance of Samudra uh, in the Ṛgveda. So I have, in the very last session we have was about Samudra, where we have seen it even talking about big ships passing through the Samudra and the trade networks that has been developed, and possible trade networks which were become very active somewhat from the middle Ṛgvedic period onwards, which is corresponding to the mature Harappan period. And the trading partners typically we are identifying as Sumerian civilization, etc., from where we get trade goods, and that is because of that reason that Dholavira region become very rich, and that is a Ran of Kutch, whatever we call as a marshy Ran of Kutch was a shallow sea at that time where ships can enter. So the ships will come into Dholavira, and then much exchange of wealth happens there, and then like that the region got prospered, and later it became known in the Mahabharata as the Dwaraka, and a very rich place, and also mentioned because of the sea trade, that region become a wealth creating region, and because of that ocean, the local ocean around Dholavira is also identified as the Kshira Sagara, from where you do Mathana, Kshira Sagara Mathana, and bring out a lot of wealth. So all these things we have discussed. So today, I'll just share you what are the remaining portions that we need to cover. Just a minute. This was our online course, which is the green color, all or the kind of things we have covered. So this was what covered in the last week, Saturday and Sunday. So this much we have now covered. Now this is the kind of two sessions that is remaining, that is Ṛgvedic geography and archaeology. So we are today in this session we are actually reconciling the Ṛgvedic chronology with the archaeology, and then there are two important aspects: archaeology and Divodasa, and archaeology and Rama. And then we have the extent of Ṛgvedic geography, to what extent the Ṛgvedic geography is extending. And then, of course, we'll have a session tomorrow about a very small session about the river identities and migrations, and then two aspects of our migration theory: early migration, reverse migration, and summary of migration, and the entire total executive overall summary of the session. So that is how we structured today and tomorrow. So just I will now go to the slides which are focusing on the Ṛgvedic geography and chronology. Like, how do you reconcile the Ṛgvedic geography with archaeology? And because we have got a lot of interesting results, and compared to many other kind of paradigms, whatever result we have got by studying the Ṛgveda and jointly intersecting it with the Ramayana and Mahabharata, we get very interesting kind of results which are completely aligned with the situation that we are seeing in the geography current archaeology. So that is what I am going to discuss in this session. So this is one important conclusion which is very much important, very much valuable for us. Let me see if I can share. So one important conclusion that we have is that very simple equation, that is Ṛgvedic geography is self-same as the Harappan geography. So this is an important conclusion that we get. The reason why we are saying this is because the easternmost river that is mentioned in the Ṛgveda is the Ganga river. So Yamuna is mentioned, and Ganga is more. This is the Ganga river, this light blue color. So this Ganga river is the easternmost river mentioned in the Ṛgveda. And this river is not mentioned. See, if the Aryan invasion theory is correct, Ganga river should have been mentioned in the latest, the youngest mandala, like 10th mandala for the first time. And that is not what we are seeing inside the Ṛgveda. the earliest mandala, that is the sixth mandala, which is the like earlier, even earlier than Vishwamitra and Vasishta, who became two advisors of Sudas. Even earlier than sixth mandala, all of you know that sixth mandala is the oldest mandala in the earliest part of the Ṛgveda. And in that earliest mandala itself, Ganga is mentioned. That means very clearly that the Ṛgvedic people were fully connected with the Ganga river, even in the earliest part of the Ṛgveda. So that is one point. And second, that it is not mentioning any river to the eastern side. So that means based on, see, it is already the Ṛgvedic data allow us to refute the Aryan invasion theory, saying that the Ganga is the one of the oldest river mentioned in the Ṛgveda, in the oldest portion of the Ṛgveda. So the geographical analysis is giving you a very important value addition or important information from Ṛgveda, which can help us to refute the Aryan invasion theory. But at the same time, it is also giving you a result that the other rivers to the east of Ganga is not mentioned anywhere in the Ṛgveda, neither in the early part, nor in the middle part, nor in the late part. So that also you have to accept it. So for example, when results comes, you cannot set it selective. Like when the Ksheerasagara Mathana happened somewhere around here in the Ran of Kutch, the Amrita and sometimes desirable and undesirable results will come out. So Amrita and Visha both comes out from a churning. So what we have done is something similar to the Ksheerasagara Mathana, where we have done the Mathana of the Ṛgveda for its you can say extracting or excavating the data from the Ṛgveda for our studies, and it gives you two results. One result, we are very happy that the oldest river is Ganga, and it is mentioned in the oldest mandala of the Ṛgveda, putting to rest all the Aryan migration theories. Because even the westernmost rivers are mentioned later and later. Like for example, the Kupha river or the Kabul river, which gives an access to the Afghanistan, is mentioned in the middle Ṛgvedic period. So the Ṛgveda giving you a very positive, strengthening your understanding that the Aryan invasion theory is wrong, and people migrated from Ganga Saraswati, the Ganga Yamuna Saraswati region, and passed through via Satluj and passed through Ravi, that is Parushni, Asikni, and Vitasta, and finally goes to the Kabul river or Kupha river and entered Afghanistan. So that very beautiful and very positive result the Ṛgveda is providing you because of the churning of the data inside the Ṛgveda, like Ksheerasagara Mathana. But it is also giving a result that the other rivers are not there. Like so, the Ṛgvedic rishis, for whatever reasons, have not are having any awareness of any rivers to the eastern side, etc. So, of course, what it means is that they may be aware of it in a kind of a very we can say like maybe a new awareness or something like that. Maybe recently some cities were built there, and so the awareness is coming there. The name of the rivers are very new, so that it's not getting into the Ṛgveda, getting recorded into the Ṛgveda. So this is the kind of situation that we can say that. And it also means it gives a kind of easternmost boundary to the Ṛgvedic geography. And that easternmost boundary for the Ṛgvedic geography is the Ganga river, because that is the easternmost river mentioned. Similarly, the westernmost river mentioned is the Kabul river. And of course, there is a this Ashmanwadi river, which is a Punar river, which is a tributary of Kabul. So I am considering it as a part of the Kubha river network, like itself. So we have that two boundaries coming in. And to be what surprises us is that the Harappan geography also is almost very similar to whatever we are seeing in the Ṛgveda. Because in the Harappan geography, the easternmost Harappan site, Harappan is itself is a misnomer, because that name is given to this civilization because the first city discovered is Harappa. But after that, so many all these cities, the settlements were discovered. So currently, and it's going up to this is Narmada river, so it's reaching up to the Narmada river. So whatever terminology I use is Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization, or SSNC civilization. And it supersedes the older name, that is Saraswati Sindhu civilization. That was there. Our Indian scholars were using that name instead of using Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization. That term became gained currency, like Saraswati Sindhu civilization. That is because 10 years ago or 20 years ago, all the Harappan cities were discovered, or whatever discovered Harappan cities were along the this is Saraswati River. Here is the Saraswati River flowing like this, along the Saraswati River or the Sindhu River. That was the situation 20 years or 10 years ago. And current situation, not even maybe even maybe you can say 30 years ago, because these sites were discovered. But current understanding that is emerged in the last 30 or 20 years ago is that this entire civilization is extending up to Narmada. So that is why it is now even Saraswati Sindhu civilization is not also not giving any justice to the term as a good terminology for this civilization. And as per our current understanding into 2023, the civilization extends to the Narmada. There is one more spot here, further south of the Narmada, called this one name is there, like it is in the Maharashtra. That is the southernmost site southernmost site of the Harappan city. So it has already crossed Narmada. Even Tapati also it has crossed. This is Tapati River. So this is wherever I am putting the cursor, somewhere at that point, we have got the southernmost Harappan city. So definitely it is the name that is worthy name for this particular civilization is Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization, because it has all three major rivers are part of this river network. Part of this material culture. So and for example, east, this is the westernmost Harappan city, or Harappan, or maybe SSNC city. For the convenience, I am just using the word Harappan, but it is Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization city, region. So this is the westernmost, like this Suktangdor. This is the westernmost city or settlement of the Harappan civilization. And here there is Alamgirpur, which is slightly to the east of the Yamuna River. So between Ganga and Yamuna River, there is one site called Alangirpur, which is the easternmost this Harappan city. And the Manda is the one settlement in Kashmir. It's very close to the Kashmir Valley. This is the Kashmir Valley, so very close to the Kashmir Valley. You have Manda, which is the northernmost. So you can see from here to here. So this complete void is because of the desert. So from here, from Manda to up to here, there is one site here. I forgot the name of it, but I'll find out. So that here to the south in the Maharashtra. So better to know is that site is in the Maharashtra. So a site in the Maharashtra is the southern part. We have the southernmost. So entire northwest India, northwest Indian subcontinent, because Pakistan being part of northwest Indian subcontinent. So the entire northwest Indian subcontinent from Narmada onwards, or slightly to the south of Narmada to north, slightly to the south of Kashmir Valley, and to the entire Pakistan. So this is the Balochistan border, right? So Pakistan, and the Suktandor is in the border of Pakistan and Iran, or Balochistan and Iran. So up to here, and in the eastern side up to Ganga, because here there is a site here, Alamgirpur. So it's more or less, once there is a site here, then Ganga is and Yamuna are both included into that Harappan civilization area. This much area is part of the Harappan geography, or Sindhu Saraswati Narmada civilization geography. And exactly the same geography is, if you analyze the rivers in the of the Ṛgveda, exactly the same geography we get as the Ṛgvedic geographical region. So you have an equation: Ṛgvedic geography is equal to Harappan geography, and this is the equation looks very simple, but we have done a very thorough analysis of the entire Rigvedic, all the suttas and riks inside the Rigveda, and finally we got this conclusion. Because Ganga is the easternmost river, no other rivers to the eastern side of Ganga is mentioned. Even in Harappan geography, the Yamuna Ganga is the easternmost frontier, and other rivers, there is no Harappan cities to the east of Ganga or anywhere. So I will tell you what is there. There is a new culture again. This particular situation this is exactly like a what I will say is that this kind of situation that is seen in this particular this slide is basically what it's saying is a kind of a footprint or signature of the Harappan geography itself. So whatever is mentioned in the Rigveda in terms of rivers, that geography is exactly captured in the if you make a plotting of the Harappan cities or the Sindhu Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization cities, SSNC cities. And of course, we have to plot it for 2600 BC to 1900 BC. That is the mature Harappan period. Because the Harappan period itself, there are three phases. One is the mature Harappan, another is the older to that is the early Harappan period, which is starting from 3300 BC to 2600 BC. And after 1900 BC, there is a late Harappan period. So this situation, which is like the mature Harappan phase, this is like a photograph or maybe a snapshot of the cities or settlements that has come in the mature Harappan phase, that is 2600 BC to 1900 BC, is almost like an exact replica of all the Rigvedic geography, like that. And what if I go to the other next slide, yeah, I mean one more point, like there are so many other cultures, like so contemporary to the Harappan. So some people ask like what is there like beyond whatever Harappan cities was there forest? No, there were so many other cultures. That's what these names are like Jodhpura, Ganeshwar culture. These were contemporary to the in 2600 BC to 900 BC. These were all other cultures that were existing in the other parts. So similarly, some culture will be existing in southern India also. So during this period, so none of the places are like we are not saying that the entire Indian civilization is confined to only the Northwest India and other people were all just primitive forest dwellers. No, not like that. But just we are saying that the Harappan, whatever we identify as the Indus Valley, I mean the earlier terminology of Indus Valley or Harappan, that civilization is identifiable with the Rigvedic culture because they are both similar in geography, in terms of geographical extent, etc. So we cannot identify Rigvedic culture with the Aharbanas. That is what it means. See, we can't identify with Aharbanas culture or Kayatha culture or Jodhpura, Ganesh. So none of this matches. Only the Harappan civilization culture, the geographical extent matches with the Rigvedic geographical culture. And this is one of the main finding of the book Rivers of Rigveda. And there is also a very interesting finding from one of my colleague Yajna Deva, who have deciphered the Indus script or the Harappan script and found an interesting something similar to this equation. What he discovered, and it came in 2023, is that the most what do you call the Sanskrit language is the most closest language to the Indus script, and that finding he got. So his equation will be like the Indus script is equal to Sanskrit. So then another equation that we got. So there are two important discoveries that has come in 2023. Of course, my book is 2022 release. So between 2022 and 2023, okay, or between 2020 and 2023, we have a huge amount of progress that has been made in terms of identifying the Rigvedic geography with Indus Valley culture or Harappan culture, which are the popular names I'm using, even though I am not very much interested in using those names. So that kind of identity, I mean, of course, it will take some time to reach all these things, findings into textbook. But at least we can very confidently say in 2023 that there is absolutely no ambiguity between the Harappan civilization, because you see the photo, this image, and the Rigvedic civilization. Both are the two sides of the same coin. Now let me move to this. Yeah. Now the next important point is that there is one more culture, the slightly bluish color I have shown, which is contemporaneous with the Harappan, the Sindhu, this brown colored culture, that is the Harappan civilization culture, or the Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization, that is. And complementing that, there is another culture which is spread across the Yamuna and Ganga. So these two rivers, Yamuna River and Ganga River, and so many dotted line you can see. This is the ore colored pottery culture, OCP culture, and copper hoard culture. So they were like a culture which identified with the pottery with the orange color. Or color means orange color. So orange colored pottery and weapons. So between this culture existed. See, so the growth of this culture, if you see, the 1900 BC, the growth, we have got some cities up to here, somewhere in the middle of Ganga. And in the 1700 BC, within 200 years, sites popped up in up to very close to Ayodhya and Kashi, etc. And of course, what I propose in my books are that there will be like hidden sites, yet to be discovered sites in Ayodhya and Kashi as well. So, which in an anticipatory manner, I have considered them all as contemporaneous to 1900 BC or 1700 BC period. And so there may be a lot of hidden sites. So we can, this is like, because this is a matter of 100 years here and there. So we can safely assume that this culture is existing even between as east as Ayodhya and Kashi. There is no problem in that, because I have also discussed with, consulted with archaeologists. They say that they are just waiting for such discoveries which may come in this decade, wherein this particular graph will extend to Ayodhya and Kashi. So it's not a matter of time that this blue color OCP culture will be covering up to here. And this is the period 1900 BC to 1700 BC is the period of the Vedic Idhasas, because we have contemporaneous cities in Ayodhya and Hastinapura. Hastinapura obviously, because Hastinapura is somewhat in the western side, and also in the Ayodhya, Kashi, everywhere the cities. And we are here only, we are plotting only the Bronze Age cities. So if we are looking at Bronze Stone Age blended culture, we have cities up to Bihar. We have ancient sites up to Bihar, which are like 2000 BC, etc. But if you are only restricting to the Bronze Age settlements, Bronze Age culture, then of course Bihar maybe get excluded, and it is extending up to the middle of Uttar Pradesh. And so there are so many interesting equations here. The OCP plus late Harappan culture. That is, as I mentioned, about 3 levels of the Harappan culture. That is early, middle, and late. So ore-colored pottery plus late Harappan culture. If you plot the geography of this particular equation, that is, plot the OCP sites, that is ore-colored pottery and copper hoard sites, and then also plot the late Harappan cities. So 2 type of cultures we have to combine, OCP and the late Harappan. And then you look at the geographical extent of that. So then you get the situation in 10th Mandala and the Kurukshetra war period. So 10th Mandala is ending by around 1900 BC. And immediately in 1793 BC, we have Kurukshetra war. So that Kurukshetra war period, we get the kind of snapshot of the Kurukshetra war period, or the period between the 10th Mandala. 10th Mandala is also the period of Sri Rama. Towards the end of the 10th Mandala, Sri Rama is born. And towards the 10th Mandala to the Kurukshetra war period, around 200 years I am talking about. We have the entire archaeology is completely equipped with supporting our dates, which are falling like Sri Rama and Pandavas falling between 1900 BC and 1700 BC. So our date for Rama is 1940 BC, and Kurukshetra war is 1793 BC. So more or less between 2000 BC to around 1700 BC, the two events in the two itihasas took place. And of course, people will be having doubt about the yugas, etc., which of course I keep on writing about that in social media. But if there are questions, I can also clarify, because those large yugas of 43,000 to 43 lakhs 20,000 years emerged later during the Aryabhatan period. Pandavas were using only the 5-year yuga, that is Panchavarsha yuga, where 5 years constitute one yuga. 4 such equal 5 years resulting into 20 years is the Chatur yuga. And the the ratio that is used is 1:1:1:1. And there are no names like Kali, Dwapara, Treta, or Krita Yuga that was being used in that period. Those names came, actually, the origin of those names is basically the game of dice or Dyuta. So, for example, the dice, currently, whatever dice we use for playing, like snake and ladder, that have 6 faces. But in the Mahabharata, whatever game of dice, that dice have 4 faces. And in one phase, there will be one dot will be there. In another phase, there will be 2 dots, then 3 dots and 4 dots. Total 4 phases are there. And in that 4 phases, the phase with 1 dot is called Kali. The phase with 2 dot is called Dwapara. The phase with 3 dot is called Treta, and the phase with 4 dot is called Krita or Ruta, whatever the 2 variants of the name. So that after inspired by the Dyuta, later that yugas got divided into 1:2, 2:3, 3:4. The oldest division was 1:1:1:1. All yugas are equal, and it was just 5 years in length. So the yuga, this Chatur Yuga kind of concepts doesn't come into play here. Those are all later evolutions remapped or reprojected back into the ancient period, so that we got an impression that Sri Rama is in a Treta Yuga, which is very large, like lakhs of years, and then Dwapara Yuga is another like very large Yuga, and to the end of that, Krishna is born. And then Kali Yuga is there, where 4,32,000 we will be living. So these are all like, it's something like a kind of a mathematical framework. It doesn't have any historical significance at all. It's just a mathematical framework, and its whole purpose was astronomy and correlation of calendars and synchronizations of calendars, residue calculations, etc. So somehow, due to some poetic imagination or because of some reason, that got attached with our understanding that these are all historical yugas. But historically looking at, if you look at Rama and Pandavas, they are all lived within the 200 years period between, as I said, 1950 BC to 1750 BC. Both the personalities, that is Rama's lifetime and Pandava's lifetime, were confined to these 200 years, like that. And so okay, here this date 1920 BC I have revised into 1940 BC, just a 20 years of difference. And the 10th mandala of the Ṛgveda ending at 1900 BC, and Rama and Shantanu is mentioned as around 1940 BC, just 20 years of difference. Like in the new book, I am making that change, that instead of 1920, I am making it 1940. And Kurukshetra War is 1793 BC, which is a well researched by professional astronomer Dr. Ashok Bhatnagar. And if people who are interested in understanding it deeper, I can share the research paper of Dr. Ashok Bhatnagar, which falls into this range. That is all about archaeology. So now we've got very important understanding that Ṛgvedic geography and Harappan geography are both identical in terms of extent, eastward, westward, northward, and southward. And so when we can reconcile the Ṛgvedic mandalas, the 10 mandalas of Ṛgveda, which we have seen in our first session or first class, and connect it with the absolute chronology. So that is the last activity I have done in my book. So I have mentioned the 6th mandala, the priest as Bharadwaja and the king as Divodasa. And the earliest mandala of the Ṛgveda, 6th mandala. After that, we have the 3rd mandala, where Vishwamitra was the priest of Sudas. Sudas is the descendant of Devodasa. And in the 7th mandala talks about the situation when Vasishtha became the priest of Sudas. So these 2 mandalas are more or less contemporary. They are not separated by number of hundreds of years. Maybe between 6 and 3, there is a separation of 100, maybe 100 or whatever number of years. But 3 and 7 are contemporary. This is for Vishwamitra, this is for Vasishtha, when both of them alternatively became the priest of Sudas. So that is the early Harappan period. And then you have the middle Ṛgvedic period. Of course, these are not watertight, so there will be it's just giving an absolutely approximation. So we have a situation that there is a king called Sahadeva, descendant of Sudas, and with something similar like a priest-like character, priest-like role played by Ṛgvashva, something like Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, and Bharadwaja. Ṛgvashva was like a guide and guide or preceptor or priest or advisor to Sahadeva. And after Sahadeva, Somaka was there. And he is contemporary to the fourth Mandala period. So Sahadeva is contemporary to the early part of the first Mandala period. This is the entire thing is first Mandala, which is very complicated with divisions like early one, mid one, late one, and the general part of the general part of the first Mandala, which is categorized as A and B. This is because it's a little bit chronologically complicated Mandala, first Mandala. And that early mandala is little more well defined. And in the early mandala of the first early part of the first mandala, you have Sahadeva, and with his advisor Rijrashva. And after that, the middle Ṛgvedic period, fourth mandala, we have Somaka, another important king, with his advisor Vamadeva Gautama. And then you have the second mandala Gritsamada, fifth mandala Atri mandala, and then we have eighth mandala where we cannot define it as connected to any particular rishi. So many rishis have contributed to the eighth mandala. And then you have a Soma mandala where all the Soma related suktas are collected together into the. So the chronology of ninth mandala is not properly defined because they have older, later, younger, all the Soma suktas are combined together into the ninth mandala. So as far as concerned, we can only talk about the chronology of the 10th mandala and the 8th mandala. 9th mandala chronology is very fuzzy because they have done the mix and match of the Soma related suktas into the 9th mandala. So Soma mandala is there. So then the 10th mandala, there where we have kings like Shantanu, and Shantanu is mentioned as a contemporary king of the 10th mandala. Even Rama is also mentioned here. I have not shown in the graphics. Shantanu and Rama, Sri Rama, both are mentioned as contemporary to 10th mandala. Even Shantanu's brother Devapi also mentioned in this particular 10th mandala. And he was more or less like an advisor to Shantanu. So actually, in the Mahabharata, they were mentioned as brothers, like Devapi is elder brother, Shantanu is the younger brother. But in the Ṛgveda, Devapi is almost playing the role of this advisor, like Bharadwaja, Vishwamitra, Vasishta, Rijvashva, Vamadeva. Something similar Devapi is having. So he's like an advisor to Shantanu. More or less, it's like that. And after that, after 10th mandala, there is nothing. Like Ṛgveda composition is completed. This gap is where the Kurukshetra war and its aftermath is. Now you can look at the bottom. So the period up to the where the Divodasa and Sudas lived, that is a contemporaneous to the early Harappan period. So we have a kind of absolute chronological synchrony between the Ṛgvedic phases. This is the Ṛgvedic phase, right? Early phase, middle phase, late phase. And that is synchronous with the early phase of the Ṛgveda is synchronous with the early Harappan, like this. And the kings were Divodasa and Sudas. And the priests were Bharadwaja, Vishwamitra, and Vasishta. And then you have a mature Harappan period, 2600 to 1900 BC, where we have seen this graph, this particular snapshot also, right? So that is this period, mature Harappan. We have the, in terms of Ṛgveda, you have the middle and the late Ṛgvedic period is contemporaneous with the mature Harappan period. And the mature Harappan period is ending at 1900 BC. That is the terminal point of the 10th mandala, actually. Where Shantanu, then this Rama, Devapi, all were living in the terminal end of the 10th mandala, end of the Ṛgveda. So 1900 BC is a kind of a very happening period where Shantanu and Rama were living, and also Ṛgveda was ending. 10th mandala of the Ṛgveda was composed and it is ended. And obviously, we know in our tradition, we say Vyasa is the compiler of the Vedas, because who is Vyasa? Basically, Shantanu's wife, Satyavati's son. So typically, like that is the right period for Vyasa to come in and compile the entire Veda. So that way, tradition and whatever our analysis, both are agreeing together. So somewhere after the period of Shantanu, Vyasa have looked at the entire Vedic corpus up to here, everything. He has properly compiled it, and then, of course, like classified into Ṛgveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharveda. So the fourfold divisions, everything. That Shantanu's second wife's son, basically. That is Vyasa. He has done it. And after that, whatever ensuing is the Kurukshetra, because Vyasa's grandson, Pandavas are grandsons of Vyasa. So we have the Kurukshetra war and its aftermath. So that is the compared to late Harappan period. Late Harappan means 1900 BC to 1300 BC period, late Harappan. And during the late Harappan period, we have also the other culture called OCP, the OCP culture here. The OCP. So OCP has grown as far as current archaeology, of course, somewhere in the Kampilya or this Kanauj, up to Kanauj, Kanyakubja. But there are isolated sites here and there. Like, so it's we can, as far as I am concerned, I am making a 100-year leap and saying that it was extending up to Ayodhya, Kashi, like that. So up to here. And this is also the geography of Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So that is what I mentioned about this Kurukshetra war and aftermath, like here. And this is another kind of visualization, another kind of visualization of the absolute chronology of Ṛgvedic mandalas. Just in a 3D, I can give a kind of image for you, for your use. Maybe you can use it for referring, talking about this session, class, etc. In social media or anywhere. So I can give this snapshot to you, to all our listeners, and they can use it for their own discussions, etc.